7 o'clock, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you've been here before. I will not go through all of the stuff. You know where the emergency exits are. So we'll start with the approval of the December 4th meeting minutes. Everybody a chance to review them. I have a motion to read them or to approve them.
So moved by Adrian.
Moved by Adrian, seconded by Regina. Anybody have any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Two abstentions because they weren't here. Legal notices published, continued public hearing, PB 1002-24, Alexander Shear 6-lot subdivision.
Doug, you were here.
Is it the time? Oh, no, I was able to make that.
Yeah. So you can vote. You don't need to.
That's right. It was the one. All right.
And my Doug said yay for approval.
He does not. Anyways, moving on.
Who wants it? Ron, you or Dan? Talk about that one.
Oh,
Shear.
yeah, sure. The planning board on December 4th designated the lead agency
Right.
under seeker. Under seeker, once you're designated the lead agency, you have 20 days to make your determination of significance after having completed the coordinated review.
Correct.
Unless there's agreement between the applicant and the planning board to extend that. We have a situation here that we had been originally informed that natural fuel gas, or whatever the name is
Mhm.
used, would have some information for us tonight. We never got it. We have a resolution drafted to extend that determination period 90 days to coincide with your second meeting in February.
Mhm.
And we sent notices of that to natural fuel gas. I'll give KB a list of names and email contacts to reach out to. The other thing that has occurred here is that the water and sewer superintendent has told the applicants at the PRC meeting that they can't hook it. Okay, the sewer that's been put in is going to be needed for our potential expansion of the park and the restrooms and things that are being worked on now. And we're not going to allow at this time any others to tie into that, what is
Right.
basically a private sewer line. So,
And that causes issues because two of the lots didn't perk.
well, two of the lots don't perk, doesn't mean they can't design a raised fill system.
Right.
It's bad enough whenever anybody puts in a septic system because it's just starts the clock ticking, and when you add to that a raised fill system, the clock ticks faster.
And close to a wetland. Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're playing with Mother Nature there. You know?
Yep.
It's never good to do that. So, we've drafted a resolution. We understand am I stepping on your toes?
No, you're good. You're good.
We heard today from the applicant, banged his knee or something and is not available to be here tonight. He has no problems with the resolution as we've drafted it. And, we're moving forward with that.
And that was to the middle of February, correct?
Second meeting.
Second meeting in February. Okay. Anything else?
You said 90 days though. right?
No. Pass.
Up to.
Yeah.
From December 10th.
Oh, that equals 90. I was thinking from today I did there. It's not 90.
So just to add on to what Ron's saying, we have talked to the applicant at the PRC. about the seeker process. Their engineer did write a request, acknowledging that more time would be needed. And agreed with the extension that is in the drafted resolution for tonight. Natural fuel gas, I've been on a couple of their emails that the applicant has sent. There was additional information that they were requesting to make their evaluation. They understand our timeframe with this extension, but there was no way that they could get it through their process by tonight's meeting.
Right.
So as Ron mentioned, we need some answers on what they're doing for septic with the perk situation and not being able to tie into the private line from this facility. And then the national fuel caps, what is going to happen with lots 4 and 5.
Right. Okay.
So the final thing I want to add to this is that they have been made aware in the resolution that you will make a determination on that second meeting in February. It could be either a negative deck or a pos deck. And if it's a pos deck, they want to continue with 6 lots over there, then we'll do a scoping and start that ball rolling.
Well, I was gonna say, that's the biggest issue, at least in my mind, and certainly it's a public hearing, but do you have any comments to make on the project?
If they had to go to, wells, and would it be a well, or would they be at town level?
They have public water over there.
They would-
Yeah, public water.
They have such.
Say your name and address, just so he can,
It's Verna Cowley, 1098 on Road.
okay, go ahead, ma'am.
If they have to go with septics, are they looking at bigger lot sizes then? I mean, don't you have to have?
We have yet to see the updated plan that addresses the national fuel gas issue or the raised bed issue. So I don't know yet. We haven't seen anything. And that was what I was gonna say, because we can't do seeker when we don't have an application that meets the requirements of the parcel, and in this case, natural fuel gas, plus the issue of not being able to connect to sewer, and with 2 lots not perking. So there's a lot to be done before we can address seeker. So we don't know yet what they'll do.
A lot has to be a certain size.
Wait, that,
It's, I mean, you're not gonna put septic tanks like they have in regular houses buildings. Side by side, are they?
Well,
Lots of good, big enough.
yeah, the lots would be big enough for the septic, yes. But our engineer brought up, and he's not here tonight, but did bring up at PRC that with these raised beds, if that's the direction they have to go, they would have to coordinate with DEC
Right.
and delineate the wetlands
Right.
on site. And there was some back and forth there, but that is the stance that we're standing with, that will have to be addressed.
Correct. And we don't yet, like I said, and the other issue, so that's for the 3 along County Road around Colette. But we don't yet know about the ones on County Road 8 because that's a national fuel gas until we see what they say. And we don't know if they'll be able to build any in those lots. And so we just don't know yet. There's too many questions, certainly way too many questions to do seeker. And we don't have updated drawings that address those issues yet.
I just wondered about the code. You know, I.
Code for lot size is okay, but DEC is the big issue with the raised beds because of the wetlands. Regular septics would be probably okay if it had perk, but it didn't perk. 2 of the lots didn't perk. One did, probably the other 2 did as well, but
They weren't at a rate that was acceptable.
right. So there's where we're at there. Anything else, ma'am? Okay, board have any questions on this? What we're really doing is kicking seeker down the road till middle of February. And by then, hopefully, we'll have some information and updated, plans, or we'll have to either kick it down the road again, waiting on information, or pause deck it, which, creates all kinds of problems, certainly for the applicant. A positive declaration is meaning that we can't answer some questions, so they have to do a lot more work to address it. Any other comments, questions? Do I have a motion to waive the reading of the resolution and approve it with the continuation of the seeker and public hearing till the middle of February? Motion by Tim, seconded by Doug. Any other comments? Clerk, take a roll call vote, please.
Lucia. Fabiz.
Aye.
D'Souza.
Aye.
Adrian Velez.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we kick the can down the road till we can get some information on this one. Next item up after everything is other board actions, letter of credit, partial release, Farmbrook subdivision, parcels 7A and B. That's all good to go. Everything signed, sealed, and delivered. Do I have a motion to waive the reading and approve that letter of credit? Moved by Doug, seconded by
Gina.
Regina. Any other comments? Clerk, take a roll call vote, please.
Tim DeLucia. Aye. Fabiz. Aye. Regina D'Souza.
Aye.
Adrian Velez.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's do reports. Ron?
Okay. How long do you want me to talk?
2 minutes.
Okay, any questions? The Park and Rec Committee gonna meet on Monday, January 9th, to review the final draft of the Park and Rec plan update.
Mhm.
From there, it will go to the town board for formal adoption process to begin. The bridge, as part of the sidewalk project, was installed a week ago today.
Right?
They have to do a few things to allow it to be open to the public, such as a railing along the abutments there that
Mhm.
prevent people from jumping in the creek. And there's also a trail along the backs of some of those homes over there in Hathaway's Corners. Two of the lots, we would need an easement on to allow us to construct the 8-foot wide trail. We're working on that with Morano. And then there are some other areas, one of which is over on Mertensia and Elizabeth Way. The sidewalks stop. And they stop because there's gonna be new water lines put in there. And they started that water line project at 332 and Colette.
So the equipment.
A lot of pipes out there. They'll be over there and they expect to be done with that project by middle of January. So that'll allow settling to occur and we can get a extension of the contract with the state for the sidewalks to come in and finish the remainder of those areas. As far as the other things that I've been working on, we have a meeting scheduled now for January with the major home property owners, to discuss the agricultural conservation overlay district. And that will be zoomed in the afternoon. Hal Adams, the chairman of the Ag Advisory Committee, wants to do it in the afternoon because he feels he can get more of the large property owners to attend and participate in this. We have just finished the draft of the short-term residential property rentals, which is now being reviewed by Augie and Dan and Paula and Peter and others. So that'll be coming along early next year for your review. Chapter 144, the subdivision regs. I'm gonna get back into them and continue to work on them. Couple of other things of interest. Myers, the public hearing is Monday night, 6 o'clock here.
Right.
Okay. For that rezoning of that portion of their property that's now in residential multifamily. It's 2.612 acres.
It's at 6 o'clock and then the board meeting after that?
No, the board meeting starts at 6.
Okay,
Santa Claus said, you can have it, but you gotta get the hell out. So,
oh, I did have it for 6.
there you go. One of the things that we learned about the sidewalk project, you put sidewalks in, and then all of a sudden people are interested in developing that vacant land. So someone contacted me and wants to develop the Simmons Rockwell land over there opposite Finger
Right
Lakes
there.
Racing.
And on 96?
Yeah, I guess Simmons Rockwell has pretty much given up on trying to put a car dealership there because everything that they've tried, people from Canandaigua have said, it's in our franchise area and you're now out. So they're,
Yeah, that's a problem.
you're gonna see some kind of multifamily over there.
Really?
Yeah.
Great. On board will love that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So, those are basically the highlights. Other things are still in the works,
Cool,
moving along.
cool. And
Yeah, Ron's keeping us busy, with the code updates. As he mentioned, short-term rentals is on our desk right now under review. I'm assuming chapter 144 will be shortly after that for us to review. It is the holiday season, so we are shorter staffed over the next few weeks. This is also the meeting that we normally talk about, deeming projects complete or applications adequate for your January meetings. As you see, we don't have any, so.
Yep.
The anticipation would be your first meeting, which is a Thursday, January 2nd.
Right.
Would be your rules and procedures.
Yep.
And if you go on the OneDrive, you'll notice that the rules and procedures are there with Ed. You have already made a recommendation.
Yep.
So that typed up, is in there as well. Your second meeting, obviously, I know that there's projects coming and we'll be on, that we'll have to at least deem them complete. So if we do not get your rules and procedures done on January
Right.
2nd, we could get a resolution and approve it at your second.
we could probably do some of those resolutions, deeming them complete on the 2nd. Or,
You can't, because the submittal date,
oh, okay,
won't be until the following week. So I will
Okay.
not have them all in,
okay,
and that's why it's always the Thursday before your second meeting is the submittal date.
Right.
So that's where that sort of lines up.
okay.
Highway engineering all
Yeah.
wishes you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and said that they were going to start the holiday early and not be here tonight, so.
Good idea.
So that, the fire department, John Wienenborner, their current chief, will be done at the end of the year. After 18 years as a line officer, he is finally stepping down and going back to just a firefighter. So I have reached out to the incoming chief and am setting up meetings with him, talking about
Cool.
getting representation to your meetings when needed and those items. So
Cool.
that's all I got for tonight. John,
That was a chief?
Yep,
he's been
she's
chief.
right now, I guess. Yeah. Okay,
Assistant chief.
No, he was assistant for many years, and then I think the last 4 years, he's been the chief.
okay, so it comes back to planning board members. I know, Adrian, you've got some, questions or concerns or whatever.
Questions.
Mhm.
I mean, I just want to bring up that I feel like I wanted to see if there's a way to make it easier to build homes. I don't think the process is very, I feel like it's just overdrawn for a single family home in the town of Farmington for having 20 meetings to approve everything when it's most of them are simple site plans or simple reviews. Like to go through preliminary or whatever I get, but then to come back later to have a meeting to say that it's final or it's ready, to come back for final and just stamp it, move it on. I don't know. I just think there should be an easier way.
So the process right now is we have we have to put it on the agenda, we have to determine it complete. And then we have to have whatever the appropriate public meeting is where we do seeker and preliminary site plan. That gets taken care of, and then we do the meeting with finance. So in theory, there's 3 meetings, assuming
Meeting
that
put on the agenda for-
meeting to put it on the agenda for final.
Yeah, deem that application complete.
Oh, okay, so there's 4 meetings then. And that is assuming that the applicant or their delegate gets the paperwork in time to get things signed, so it moves on. I think that's where we've seen a lot of the holdups has been,
Yeah.
at least from my side, is that the developer and or whoever are not getting the documents in time to meet the next meeting, so that means it's a meeting skip because the documents weren't in it.
Right.
Happens all the time. It happens regularly because,
Now you're bumping a whole nother month or more.
yes, absolutely.
Where there's sometimes I don't feel like, I don't see why it needs to be on a meeting for us to say it's final and go to final the following meeting to say it's done. Like, I feel like back in the day, and I don't remember how this all worked, that there was a time where we used to do this where there was single family homes where we did it almost in one meeting and it didn't have to come back for final. If everything, like they get their list of stuff they have to fix on the map or whatever, they fix that stuff. There's usually not much on the final that we need to approve, so it would never come back, is what I remember. So now,
Ron, the process has always been at least a preliminary and a final. I think we rarely have we ever done them on the same night. We have, but not very often.
done that.
And that was only if it's super simple. But now there's this new requirement to determine the application complete. We didn't create that out of the blue. That came from the state of New York. So the state of New York created that requirement to establish that the application is complete. We used to count on staff to determine whether it was complete. And they basically said that that's not acceptable. The board has to determine it complete.
And how we do it is, so it doesn't slow down the process, is the same month they submit is the same month they're in front of you guys to deem that application complete.
Right.
So if you would have submitted before we were doing that deeming complete, you would still be on that next month. So whatever was submitted, let's say in November, would be on a December meeting. So now if you submit in November, you're on the second meeting in November to deem the application complete. And then you still go to the same meeting you would normally have gone to
In December.
in December. Again, the applicant doesn't need to come to
Right.
that deeming adequate
Right.
or complete. They only need to come when they're hearing for seeker, preliminary, or final.
Or if for some reason staff has determined it not complete and the applicant wants it to come to us anyway, which is always a waste of time because we're not going to deem it complete if the staff doesn't believe it's complete. So basically, we still have,
Get all the beginning, I just think the end part is,
oh,
it's so much extra that I don't think it's needed.
it's one extra meeting, correct? Basically. Well, even then, I don't know if it's extra.
Cause you're gonna deem it complete to put it on another meeting next month or something, so it's just,
The deeming complete is just a state requirement. I mean, it doesn't change the procedure that's been in place for years.
Timing is about the same. They meet,
Timing's
let's
identical.
just say they meet the second meeting of the month in December, then and it gets approved for preliminary, the final would be the second meeting in January. So it hasn't really changed any.
it wouldn't be January.
Yeah, it would be. If the preliminary was done the second meeting in December,
Correct.
then the first meeting in January would be a deemed the final complete, assuming they got it in,
No,
right?
You're off on your time. This is
No.
the timeline.
so If they were
Here tonight,
here let's say they were here tonight,
Okay,
they could submit in January, they would be on in February. Because submittal is always a month behind,
okay.
but they would still be in January for deeming it complete.
Complete.
They would be on the first meeting in February for your final.
But even if they didn't have to determine complete,
now, so say we do the first meeting in February, and we approve the site plan or whatever.
that's fine.
Then it would
They
be
have
done.
1 week to get the stuff in if they turn around, if not.
There's nothing to get in at that point. It's a
well, they
final.
can fix this. Oh,
So if they had a preliminary tonight, they could submit in January, their final, and be on the first meeting in February. For final, and then they're
We
done.
could approve it final, and then they fix whatever the resolution says, and then I sign it.
The problem is, as Ed mentioned, what we're getting submitted to us doesn't meet the conditions, so there's a lot of back and forth, and then they miss the submittal date, which pushes them a whole nother month.
Right. That's really the issue, I think, is the engineering folks, almost all of them.
Oh, yeah, there's a ton of back and forth that we review them, and then they're sent back and they have to make corrections.
Because they're not following the issues in the resolution.
There's only one submittal date per month.
Yes. You guys have 2 meetings, but there's only one submittal and. Yes,
Kind of like county planning board. Once middle a month.
Yeah,
What I'm hearing is you're mixing apples and oranges here.
okay,
You're mixing subdivision approval with site plan approvals. And there's different timelines involved with those two. And with
well,
the,
yeah, we didn't even talk about it, there was subdivision approval, that has to go before the preliminary anyway.
right,
And that's also a preliminary and final. So that's
You're saying if
2 or 3 months. And you got the house 2 or 3 months.
normally the preliminary subdivision approval is the longest period because you may get into a situation where you gotta do a coordinated review.
Right.
And under a coordinated review, you gotta give 30 days.
30 days.
You can't shorten that.
and anything that has to go to county automatically goes to your guys' second meeting.
So we have to have those in by certain deadlines that the county sets in order for it to get on the agenda. We can't act until the county gets back to us, whether it's a subdivision or site plan. So, there's a lot of changes that have occurred over time that we have to try to deal with. And the end result, I think it's very obvious when you get here to this board in a public meeting or either a preliminary or final approval, there's really not a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
Very rarely is
Right.
anything continued.
Right.
Okay, so all the work has been done.
right, but that's why, that's
Yeah.
the point in that, like,
The first
why,
house in the subdivision, the first house in subdivision takes the long.
why does it have to come back for final then?
Simply because the code says so. Now, if you want to recommend eliminating final, then you get into a situation of, the clock starts ticking with final approval. It's valid for a 180-day period.
And we've always done one.
there a way to do like, at the meeting that we determined that it's a complete final application, then vote that's final. We're required, by the state to say like it's a final application or site plan. And then we vote on that, and then that's literally right after we vote on the rest.
The difficulty I have with that is that everything I give you is a draft. I have no way of knowing if it's going to be accepted or not, whether maybe you've seen something missing at the final that should have been caught.
Right, but we have the option then. If we say, no, it's not actually complete, then we're not gonna vote on the next resolution.
Well,
But
and
if
you
it is, then we can't.
Look-
I mean, it's extra work for them. to be
Look
able
at
to
your-
freeze it, but
look at your preliminaries, though. I mean, there's usually a bunch of conditions on every single preliminary that comes through here. So how do we write a draft with a bunch of conditions and then have a final right behind it?
I think it would be, you would get through preliminary, and then the night they would be introducing the deeming it complete, we would also then entertain voting on it final.
A complete
So it'd be,
plan.
it would be that one meeting where we would be doing, instead of having it.
Yep.
You not
no,
meeting up.
Yeah, I get it, but then are you telling the applicant up front that they have to submit now a preliminary and a final? Because they have to submit those and pay for those together.
Well, they got the preliminary, but then they still have to resubmit, or they have to submit for final, right?
Correct.
But at the meeting where we would deem that application complete, couldn't, I think.
Yeah,
could
we
be
would vote
that
on both.
or,
We-
You know, entertain.
Yeah.
Putting
In
it on for final, but, you know, it's straightforward and their engineer done his work and.
a utopian situation where everybody does what they're told to, and they don't.
Yeah, but you're not gonna give,
We don't
that-
say-
you're not gonna bring it to us for a vote on completedness if it's not actually complete.
It would only be 2 weeks, say, when you really get down to it.
So you don't want us to give it to you until we're happy.
Well, I've said that all along.
Isn't that what it usually happens? I mean,
Not necessarily.
No, sometimes the applicant pushes it, but I have said I don't want to see them until they're complete. But if we did just that, on some of them, because some of them we may not want to, the only thing we're saving the applicant is 2 weeks. Because once we deem it adequate for final, it's put on the next meeting. So, right, correct? You're saving basically 2 weeks. You know, that basically is how it goes. Well, they gotta get it in, have it be complete, but once it's gets to us for deemed complete, and we say, yay, verily it's complete, the next meeting is on the agenda. But it's only, so if we did approve the final at that time, it would only save them 2 weeks.
Something that you guys aren't considering too is, well, the deadlines are in place because of the staff reviews that have to happen. So,
So I guess that's where the next question is, though, is where's the holdup or what's the hangup? How, where's the hangup with that?
Adrian, we did over 3,000 permits. That's not even including anything we did for the planning board this year. I don't have staff to just say, oh, plans come in, I need to review them this second. I have to juggle multiple things, not even including what Ron does, water and sewer does, what highway
There's not
does.
one guy back there in the department that does that.
Absolutely
on a
not.
Daily basis or weekly basis.
Nope.
It's done.
And I have to get all the reviews, and Ron could attest to this. We're chasing down the other departments to get reviews back. Because they're doing their day-to-day operations on top of it. There's just not enough staff to make it go faster.
And the permanent inspections and all that, those are obviously critical to jobs continuing with contractors on site and everything else. Certainly was when mine was being done with my, you know,
I understand.
siding and roofing and stuff. I didn't want them to not be able to do that. They needed to come out at a certain time and do it.
I mean, if there's a priority issue, then that's something that has to be taken up with the town board.
Right.
That they need to redirect where they want our priorities, but right now, permits that come through the door is,
Information, there's not somebody back there,
So,
no.
not saying reviewing just 5 days a week, because we're probably not, but it's not that busy sometimes.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like this month coming up, yeah, there's not a lot of reviews, but the following month, we might get 5 or 6 applications. Which one might be a single family house, which yes, you're right, would it take long? But it might also come in with a 10 lot subdivision that's gonna take us a lot longer to review. More people involved.
Single family home, I think that's.
Well, and in our eyes, we have to look at them all the same. Because they're all on the same time frame. So that's the other
Being on
thing.
the boards for so long, I don't ever remember
Does that New York City?
that it's taken this long.
I think that's what it is.
well, that,
Or.
the New York State requirement,
I thought it was
definitely.
simpler, of course, last year, obviously, in the last year, people, I mean, housing tracks are slowing down a little bit right now with everything going on, we're trying to figure out X and X. But there was more single family homes, and then obviously with me building my own and going through the process. I mean, I just felt like there was
Well,
hiccups and stuff that I just thought wouldn't be there or something, but, and I understand um, the architect or whatever. I get that stuff or whatever, but
We didn't get stuff on time. I guarantee you on yours, we did not get stuff on time to get it.
But I also felt like the lady with County Road 8, you know, that one kind of got.
Again, there was a tremendous amount of information missing on that one.
You know, so I just
Mhm.
felt like there was,
But Adrian, I can show you other ones that have listened to what we said and they march right through the process. So, I mean, it's definitely two sides to this. That, yeah, you might have had a bad experience and taken longer, and the lady down on County Road 8 for sure took a lot longer than they anticipated. But you look at the emails from staff, and Ed's copied in on a lot of it
I see it.
about things that
I
we
see the
asked for,
problem.
and we just can't move things. And if we did, you guys would be very frustrated because nothing would be complete.
And I've made it clear, well, I want to see them when they're complete. I don't want to sit here and talk to the person that's doing the application and tell them what to do, that the staff's already told them what to do, and they haven't done it. I don't want to waste our time or theirs coming in here and going through stuff that they've already been told by staff. It happens all the time. I see the email. You know, I told Ron something today, and I said, you know, there's two ways that projects go through. First one is staff works with the applicant. It comes to us, we go through, it meets pretty much minimal timeframes and it gets done. Or the applicant doesn't do the stuff we said, doesn't meet the timelines of our requirement, doesn't do this and that. And in the end, it still meets our requirements because that's what we have to do, but it just takes 2 or 3 or 4 times as long because they keep fighting the process, and it happens all the time. I see it with different applicants, certainly. Some are more notorious than others. Yeah,
No, I don't think that's what we're arguing against.
right,
Obviously, you guys do great work, and we're not saying.
right.
You were just asked.
I think the earliest we could get it back if we did that would be 2 weeks. And I'm not convinced changing the process for that works.
Yeah, if that's.
I mean, I guess if it's,
Yeah.
if it's really critical for the applicant for some reason, if we have that option. that we can
Maybe they can
pay it.
request.
2 weeks, it's hard for me to see. where
So,
it's- they're getting-
I guess if you think there's a better process, write something up. I mean,
Yeah.
I,
That would be the other thing.
so that
yeah.
we can see it. I mean,
We've got our rules and procedures. If you have some suggestions on how to make it easier, and maybe it's in this section 4 on page 7 that says determination of a complete application and scheduling a public hearing. If you can go into that area and come up with some kind of verbiage that makes it better, and that we can somehow slip one in if we feel that there's a reason to do that, put the wording in there and we'll see what we can do. We'll all review it. So I can't think of anything, Ron?
just don't get hung up on your rules of procedure,
Right,
because that's important, but it's also what's in the code.
of course.
So,
What we put in rules and procedures can't violate the code.
so once we understand what it is you're talking about,
We'll review it against the code.
does against the code.
Exactly, exactly.
and if there's still something that you feel
You can have that. Oh,
you know what, it's under. I'll just.
What,
code sections?
for what? Subdivision or site plan?
It'll be, I'll look at both, it's fine.
Or,
I'll look at site plan.
don't forget subdivision.
Subdivision's all of 144, which is under review right now. But if you start there, I think that's a good spot to start in code.
okay. Let's move on to did everybody get a chance to look what I submitted for a change? And it basically was the public submitting documents, because we got a lot in one of our recent projects where the items that were submitted were from the internet. They had no provenance of who wrote them, what date they wrote them, where the data came from, if the data was even accurate. So I wanted to try to document something here that would put a requirement that when somebody submitted us stuff, here's the things we're looking for. We're looking for who is the submitter, what is their, how does it relate to the application? Is the author a subject matter expert? Does the document dated, which most of them were not? And in any factual data that's in there should be reference to some type of report or something. So I just tried to clear that up a little bit. I don't know if it'll do us any good other than some of the information we get, we just won't be able, we shouldn't be able to use because it may or may not be valid. So you gotta take it, but we can go against our stuff here and say, okay, that article did not meet our criteria. Doesn't mean we can't still review it, but we may not put the same level of weight on that document because it did not meet our criteria. I'm not saying we'll ever turn something away from a resident, but it may help the residents understand what we're looking for. And we will, on these big projects, probably remind them to look at our rules and procedures, section 2, and look at the last one, if it turns out to be P there, to show you what type of information we're looking for. So you can kind of go from there. Doesn't mean we won't take stuff, but it just, we'll put the weight on. So, okay, I just wanted you guys to see that from me. Anybody have anything else from board members? Public comments, ma'am. Anything? Okay, motion adjourned by Tim, seconded by Doug. Any other comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Hope everybody has a good time. Be careful.